CNN did a panel talk with female Trump voters to see what they think of the upcoming midterms. So let's see what they had to say, and then we'll talk about it.
How many of you feel that you want to send a message of some kind with the midterm vote? Tell me more.
I feel at age 44, when I am living paycheck to paycheck and concerned about my future, but more importantly, my daughter's, I feel like there's a lot riding on the elections coming up.
Because you're from Wisconsin.
I am.
And so that was a state that handed President Trump a victory that was unexpected, let's just say.
I voted for Obama in 2008, and I ended up voting for Trump. It was very difficult for me, but I knew at that moment that I wanted change. And for me, he represented that change.
What is your plan for how you plan to vote now for the midterms?
At this point, I plan to vote Republican. I am very confident in the economic status of where we're at now, what Trump has done, and hopefully what he can continue to do in the future if he has the support behind him. He is a very flawed human being, but aren't we all?
I kind of am a split person. My children say I'm a very confused Democrat because I vote Republican, but now I find that I like at the local level, the Democrats, the ones who are affecting my life every day.
Why do the Democrats speak to you more now?
I think that they're more into social justice and the social programs. We want to make a difference in the lives of these people that are not seeing what everyone else is seeing.
Is any part of your vote in the midterm going to send a message, you hope, to President Trump? Do you feel differently about your vote today for him?
Oh, I definitely feel different about my vote for him. You know, I voted my Christian values. I was hoping he would probably be more of the candidate that would deliver that for me. And I still maintain hope that his Supreme Court picks are going to have made voting for him worth it for me.
I'm standing behind Donald Trump because of his conservative values. You know, having the faith-based community with him is very important to the Latino community. So, yes, I am voting Republican, and I did not register ever until 2015.
Is that right? So
yes.
You never voted until this presidential election?
No. I felt that, you know, our faith-based community needed support.
And what was it about President Trump that made you think that he had those Christian values?
He was actually talking to faith-based communities.
For me, for the midterm, my message is more to Democrats than Republicans. My local elected officials are the reason for and are the reason for the deterioration of our community. It is Democrat decision-making that has widened the divide between the haves and the have-nots.
So you're basically sending a message to your local politics.
Exactly, because the local politics are why I am Republican today.
The latest poll numbers show that only 36% of the country approves of the job that he's doing. With women, it's lower. Only 29% of women approve, 65% disapprove. Why do you think that is, Allie?
Well, it starts with talking about women's facelifts, I think. It's disrespectful. I think the majority of women, I don't think that they see him as a respectful, pro-woman kind of man, especially people my age. In my age demographic, it's a huge deal that he's not supportive of easily accessible women's health care in terms of Planned Parenthood. They feel like they're losing the right to birth control, pap smears, abortions.
So, Allie, you're not happy that you voted. Is that fair? Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah,
you're
it's
not
fair
happy
to say that I'm
voted
not.
For President Trump.
Yeah. Part of the reason I voted for him was because I thought he was going to be the one of the two candidates to make our national security a high priority and make us safer on our own grounds and our own territory. But when you're making fun of foreign leaders and becoming buddy with Vladimir Putin, it shakes me up a little bit.
My fear with President Trump is that his extramarital affairs will make it more of a norm, that the children will think this is acceptable behavior. And it's not. It's hurtful behavior.
The whole Stormy Daniels thing, I don't agree, obviously, with what has gone on in the past. If I could only vote for a candidate who has been perfect his or her entire life, I could only vote for Jesus Christ.
Well,
Yeah, that was hard to watch. All of that was hard to watch. If you could only vote for a perfect candidate, you could only vote for Jesus Christ. You know, I think that there's quite a gap between a guy like Donald Trump and your perception of the perfect man / God, Jesus Christ. If you wanted to get as close to that philosophy as you could, you know, the philosophy of a kind, loving, open-hearted person who cares about people and cares about the poor and wants to give everybody health care and better wages and stuff, Bernie Sanders was probably your bet. But no, what a stupid excuse for voting for Trump. Hey, look, if I could vote for perfect, only person I can vote for is Jesus. So instead, you went with the guy who said, we have to take out their families, talking about killing civilians on purpose, which would be the definition of terrorism. You went with the guy who, you know, was caught talking about, I grab him by the pussy, I don't even wait. Wait for what? That would mean consent. I don't wait for consent, I just grab him by the pussy. Doesn't sound very Jesus-like to me. Doesn't sound very Jesus-like when he said wages are too high, as he did in one of the debates. So I'm just saying, okay. So that was one of the silliest parts. Let's go through it. Because some of them, I'm slightly sympathetic to some of the points that some of them made, but to most of it, I'm not at all sympathetic. So one of the ones I'm sympathetic towards is she said, well, look, I want to change. So she said, I voted for Obama, and I guess apparently under Obama, her life didn't get necessarily better, her economic situation, whatever it may be. So I want to change. Okay, I get that. And I think that that's one of the driving reasons why a lot of people voted for Trump is they think, oh, he's going to shake stuff up and really bring change and make it. He's not going to listen to the establishment. Look at him. He's off his rocker, but that could actually have some positive effects. So I actually sympathize with that. Oh, it's change. Okay, fair enough. But then she goes on to say, when asked, oh, how are you going to vote now? She says, oh, I'm going to vote Republicans in the midterms. What? Well, you didn't get the change that you thought you wanted, and now you say, oh, I'm going to double down on not getting that change by voting Republican again. But then she goes on to say, well, look, I trust the economic situation that we're in. So in other words, Trump's endless marketing about his economy has worked on her. And she thinks like, oh yeah, the economy's doing fantastic. But that's just not true. Wages are still stagnant. They've been that way since the 1980s. Half of working people in this country make $30,000 a year or less. 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 29 million Americans don't have health insurance. We are in a giant bubble. The tax cuts overwhelmingly went to the rich. 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. It was a giant corporate tax cut. The stock market is soaring because there were a lot of stock buybacks as a result of the tax cut for the rich. So it is all a house of cards, and apparently she doesn't know that, and Trump's marketing has worked on her. Then somebody said, oh, I voted for Donald Trump because of my faith. Okay, that's sad. That's sad. I don't know what else to say about that, because I honestly don't even know what that means, because as we've spoken about on this show before, you can trot that excuse out under any circumstance. Like I just said, you could look at somebody who's a very kind-hearted, open-hearted politician who means well, who does good things, like Bernie Sanders, and you can say, well, he's the most Christ-like, so I voted for him because I'm a Christian. Somebody could say that. Okay, that would make sense. But then you also have people who are Republicans, you know, people like Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum, and they're right-wing fundamentalist Christians who go, oh, I support them because of my faith. So you could use your faith to back up any fucking political ideology you want. So it's almost like you're just superimposing your own political beliefs onto your faith and saying, God agrees with me on all these things. And then you're rationalizing it. And that's what that is. I voted for Trump because of my faith. I mean, listen, other people have pointed this out. I don't know the reality of the situation, but let's just say it's likely that he's doing a tap dance. You know, like, oh, yes, I am so religious. Really? Donald Trump is super religious? He just strikes me as a super narcissistic and selfish dude. And the fact that you can't see through that means I question your judgment. So all he had to do was go out there and make mouth noises in favor of you and your community, and that's it? You decided, oh, he's my man and I'll vote for him? How silly is that? I mean, that really does not speak well of your intelligence. If all he has to do is go out there and say, you know, Christians, unbelievable people, tremendous people, let me tell you. And then you're like, oh, I must vote for him. Like, what the fuck is that? It's like when he said, two Corinthians over here. Remember that? He's like, there are two Corinthians. 2 Corinthians walk into a bar. Oh, it's so sad. Then we get somebody saying, well, you know, hey, I wanted to support him for national security and safety. I don't know what that means, but my guess is what you're saying is, I like the fact that he was talking about bringing back torture. That's my guess. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being unfair, but when you say, oh, I supported him for national security and safety, my guess is you like the, we're going to do a total and complete shutdown of Muslims into the United States. My guess is you like that. My guess is you like the wall rhetoric. My guess is you like the torture shit. That's my guess when you say, oh, I voted for him for national security and safety. But then she throws a twist at you and says, oh, but I think I'm not going to vote in that direction again because it's really scary to me that he's buddies with Vladimir Putin. Well, that's a silly statement in my opinion in the other direction, because I would rather have, even with Kim Jong-un, who's a monster, I would rather have our government have a positive relationship with these people so that we avoid war. So that, the more Vladimir Putin, the more Trump and Kim Jong-un suck each other off on Twitter. Well, actually, Kim Jong-un doesn't have a Twitter, so we can't do that. But the more of a positive relationship they have where they give each other compliments, the better for everybody. Because that means we're not going to war. Honestly, same thing with Vladimir Putin. I know people, oh my God, with the collusion in Russia and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to have World War III. I know people who might not be well versed on the geopolitical situation think that wasn't going to happen anyway. I don't know about that. Look at Crimea and the situation that happened in Crimea. Look at the escalation on Russia's border with NATO troops. All this stuff is serious with our fighter jets and our ships in the Black Sea right on Russia's border. That's all serious. I'd rather have a line of communication open there. So to be, oh, he's too buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin. If they're assholes to each other, that puts us in a much scarier situation. And then finally, one of them said, oh, my problem with him is the extramarital affair. And I think that, kids might start to think that's normal, and that's not okay. Listen, Trump's an asshole. I got it, you got it. It's the clearest thing in the world. Did he have an extramarital affair or multiple extramarital affairs? Yes. There's so much evidence there, whether it's Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal, which was actually a relationship. Stormy Daniels was more of like a one-night stand where he promised, oh, you get on The Apprentice, and then he didn't follow through. With Karen McDougal, it was like a relationship. So is he an asshole, and did he have these extramarital affairs? Yes. Does that impact his ability to do his job? No. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. So in other words, if Bernie Sanders was president, and come to find out, and not to besmirch his name, because this probably is not true, but I'll throw it out there anyway, if we hypothetically learn Bernie was cheating on his wife, but he's president, that doesn't mean Medicare for All is any less valid. That doesn't mean $15 minimum wage is any less valid. That doesn't mean free college is any less valid. I mean, I'm just saying, that's the reality of the situation. So, and then she says, oh, well, my problem with that is the kids will think it's normal. I guarantee you, children are wholly unconcerned with what Donald Trump is doing with his little orange mushroom. So really, just be honest, that's you saying, oh, I don't like it because I don't like it. And that's fine, but just admit that it's you, because it's got nothing to do with the kids. Kids don't know about that. There are other reasons I'm concerned about kids seeing what Trump happened to do, whether it's the endless wars or whatever it might be. But the extramarital affair, that just exposes what we already knew he was anyway, which is a fucking scumbag. So, a personal scumbag. So, yeah, overall, that segment was kind of hard to watch, because they're just not very good reasons in either direction. Even the people who are like, oh, I'm not going to support him again. Even their reasons were not good reasons. Even when I agree with them on the outcome, you know how they used to say on your test, like, oh, show your work. when they show their work is dead wrong, even though they got to the right conclusion. That's what I saw there. And then never mind all the people who were like, oh yeah, no, I still support them. Let's just say, in summation, those are shitty reasons across the board.